What is up, everyone? Welcome into the official AFC East Summit Show. We are live not only on the AFC East Summit Show, but we're also live on the Go Bills podcast. I am your host of the show today, Brett McDurphy. Glad to be with you. I am the Bills representative. I'm joined by two other guys on the show, Mr. Dolphin Keith, and I got Chris from Pats Nation. And we're hoping to be joined by Jackson, who is the Jets representative as well. Hoping he will be on a little bit later. Had a little bit of an issue with the timing, thinking that he was on the East Coast, but unfortunately he might be on the Central Coast. So we will edit the order of how we're going to go about our show today. We're going to do it kind of on the spot, which is going to be a little bit more fun. We have a great show that we're going to do for you today. We're going to be building our AFC East, and this is based off of the current rosters of each team. This is the current rosters, and you can combine any team all the way around and have each one up there for the whole entire show. So we're going to be going with all different squads. But first, I wanted to talk to each and every one of you, give you guys a chance to come on the show. Let me introduce Dolphin Keith real quick. Dolphin, Keith, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Thanks for having me on. Chris, good to see you again, man. Always fun to see, even though you're a Patriots fan. But
you mean the part of the greatest dynasty we've ever known?
But yeah, I'm a little upset Jackson's not here. I wanted to see what his thoughts were on Jets getting Hard Knocks this year.
I know that's something that I didn't think about. I mean, I knew that they weren't happy about it, but
yeah,
what are your guys' thoughts on it?
Well, I think more and more the players are starting to say the quiet part out loud, like Aaron Rodgers did, where they find Hard Knocks to be intrusive. They find Hard Knocks to just kind of get in the way of what they're trying to do. You know, training camp is hard enough as it is, and you add in the camera crew that's following your every movement, and you know, it gets to be too much, I think. So the novelty's kind of worn off on Hard Knocks, and I think players and coaches alike are kind of pushing back on the camera crews being there. So yeah,
I agree with you there. I think it's a little bit more of a distraction rather than, you know, having somebody in there. And I think that it should go to a team, like if you finished last in the your like overall, I think then that team should get Hard Knocks. It's just, you know, that makes it a little bit more fun. You get to see them. Hopefully they have a good year and then they can be a better team. But I just don't see the point of having a team like the Jets who, you know, I get that they're the offseason champions. Don't get me wrong. You know, it's great to see, but I think that there's other teams that they could have went with.
Yeah, there are. I think the Jets are actually a great. They're really compelling this year with Aaron Rodgers and Robert Saleh, who's, you know, a fiery kind of guy. I think it's a great choice by the NFL, but, you know, I think the Jets are one of the first teams to really say it out loud. We don't want to do this. We don't want any part of the Hard Knocks, and I respect them for doing so.
I do too.
Doesn't change anything. They still have to do it, but you know, it's still. So I wanted to hear Jackson's thoughts on it. So maybe, hopefully, he'll join in a little bit, and we'll get to hear it today.
Well, it won't be Jackson that's going to talk about it, but I'm going to turn it over to Chris.
Yeah, I was going to go back on the point of Hard Knocks. I just don't understand why the Jets are getting so much coverage when they haven't proven anything yet. You know, like why are we focusing so much on the off? Who made them the off-season champion? That is the biggest question of the year for me.
I mean, I get what you're saying, but they were perceived as being a quarterback away last year. They had a really good defense, a top 5 defense. Nah, man, let's be honest about it. They had a top 5 defense last year. You had a confident quarterback onto that team, and they're a playoff team, and they're a team nobody wants to see in the playoffs last year. So add Aaron Rodgers to the mix, and you know they are compelling. They're certainly they're certainly worthy of the offseason champion moniker.
I think if we look at defense alone, then looking at the Patriots last season, we realize that defense does not win it all, because the
True.
defense also had a top 5 defense. But without a quarterback, then without an actual score, then you really don't have what it takes to win the chip. And I don't know. Does Aaron Rodgers really have it in like enough in the tank to really take the Jets to a Super Bowl? I mean, just look at his last. He has one playoff. He has one Super Bowl under his belt, and all his tenure on the Green Bay. What's so impressive about the Jets that he's gonna go over there and make such a big splash and take them to the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I agree. At least he doesn't have to play the 49ers again, so that's a good thing.
Yeah.
That's a scary team.
I'm going to turn it over from talking about Hard Knocks to talking about our Hard Knocks, because we're going to be talking about our AFC East team. You can build the ultimate AFC East team based off of your starting 11. These are current players that are on each roster. I'm going to turn it over to Keith to talk about his starting 11 for his AFC East defense. Keith, go ahead.
Well, this was kind of a fun list to put together. It was kind of fun to kind of pick and choose from each team, try and build my ideal defense. Now, first and foremost, I'd like to point out that Bill Belichick would be my defensive coordinator. He'd be my defensive mind. For my money, Bill Belichick is the greatest defensive mind of, if not this generation, maybe of all time. He gets the most out of his players, and he's become just crazy adept at taking away what you do well offensively. So I'm going to give Chris some credit there and just toss that in there. So I'm going to start off with my defensive. Yeah, I'm going to start off my defensive line. I went with traditional defensive ends. So I went with Matthew Judon, who I think we can all agree is probably the best edge rusher defensive end in the division. And I went with Jalen Phillips, who maybe it's a homer pick. I fully acknowledge that. Maybe I should have gone with Von Miller instead. But Jalen Phillips isn't coming off of an injury, a serious injury. And I'm of the opinion that Jalen Phillips is going to make himself known as one of the best pass rushers in the league this season. He's always done really well with getting pressures on the quarterback, even if his sack numbers don't manifest themselves that way. So at defensive tackle, I went with Christian Wilkins. I love Christian Wilkins. I love his motor. I love his fire. I love the leader in the locker room that usually come for the Dolphins. And I went with Quinnen Williams, who is a top 3 defensive tackle in this league. He's just a scary guy to play against. At linebacker, I went with 3 linebackers, off-ball linebackers, traditional off-ball linebackers, not edge rushers, nothing like that. I went with Matt Milano, who, for my money, is the best linebacker in the division. He's just all over the field. The man's an absolute animal. I went with C.J. Mosley, who second best. I think we can all safely say that. I think C.J. Mosley is a very good linebacker. He's not on Matt Milano's level, but he's still very good. Traditional middle linebacker, C.J. Mosley is. And I went with David Long Jr. Again, a homer pick. Fully admit it. But I'm psyched to see what David Long can do in the Dolphins defense. I think he's really going to make an impact. If he stays healthy, David Long can make a really big impact for the Dolphins this year. So moving along to secondary, cornerback, I think everybody's probably going to be pretty lockstep with Jalen Ramsey and Sauce Gardner. Sauce Gardner is just another guy that's going to be scary to play against for the next 10 years. He's the second coming of Darrelle Revis, honestly. He's really special. And when the Jets drafted him in the first round a couple years ago, I moaned. I thought, I do not want to throw against this guy for the next 10 years. And last year he hit the ground running, which is unusual for cornerbacks. Cornerbacks usually take a little bit to acclimate to the NFL, and Sauce Gardner didn't need that acclimation period. He just kind of hit the ground and just made a Pro Bowl right away. Jalen Ramsey, is my second cornerback. I don't think that's a homer pick, honestly. I think Jalen Ramsey deserves to be up there. He's still a top 5 cornerback in this league, and I'm super psyched to have him on the Dolphins. Now, safety was kind of tough for me. I thought about sticking with Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer, just keeping those two together because those two can basically read each other's minds at this point. But I went with the traditional strong safety in Kyle Duggar, who I think is just an absolute stud, a rising star in this league, and an absolute thumper. Kyle Duggar's a playmaker, and he's just a really great player, really great traditional strong safety in the Steve Atwater mold, if you will. And I love what Kyle Duggar brings to a defense. And my free safety is Micah Hyde. I love Micah Hyde playing center field. Don't love him playing center field for the Bills, but I love what he can do. I love what he can do as a center fielder in the middle of a defense. He's got great instincts. He's got a great mind for the game. Great veteran presence. So yeah, those are my picks. There's a couple of homer picks thrown in there. I will admit that, but I'm confident in this defense. I think this is a pretty great defense.
Now, let me ask you this first, Keith. I want to ask you: would you rather take this defense over the current Dolphins defense?
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, give me Quinnen Williams over Zach Sealer. Give me Matthew Judon over Bradley Chubb. At linebacker, the linebackers, Matt Milano, give him to the Dolphins. I would love to have Matt Milano on my defense, but I mean that's not a knock on the Dolphins defense this year. They've done a really good job of building themselves a nice defense. Really good job of bringing Vic Fangio in to coach the defense. But as far as is this defense better than the Dolphins defense? Well, yeah, of course. I was joking with you guys earlier on in the week saying I was gonna just toss the Dolphins defense out there. There's the best 11 players in the division, but that would have been a little disingenuous on my part.
Hey, it is what it is. Chris, I'm gonna let you be the first one to judge this Keith squad. Let me know your thoughts on it.
Well, you know what? Looking at this Keith squad, I mean, it's not enough Patriots in it, but outside of that, it's a pretty good list. I give it a 10 out of 10.
Yeah. I'm going to say pretty much the same thing. I think that, you did have some players that they're a little bit questionable, but the first one I would say David Long, just based off of, I think that's a little bit of a stretch, but
thing overall, there aren't a lot of off-ball linebackers playing in the league anymore. Like Jack Campbell was drafted by the Lions in the first round this year. He was widely viewed as a second-round pick, even though he's a first-round talent, because the off-ball linebacker it's becoming less and less of a position in the NFL. I went with all off-ball linebackers. I think if I went linebacker, maybe my list would have been a little different.
Right.
But I went with the linebacking core that I grew up with, a 4-3, traditional 4-3 linebacker core.
Yeah, and the other thing that I was thinking, and this is something that, you can read the comments real quick. You're seeing there's no Von Miller on there.
Yep,
What Von has done overall in his career, I think is a little bit more than what Phillips has done so far. Yeah. But, it is a stretch, don't get me wrong.
Well, I went based off of upside. I think Von is on the back nine of his career, coming off of an injury. Jalen Phillips is a young ascending player. So that was my rationale there. Trust me, I considered Von over Jalen Phillips, but at the end of the day, I couldn't do it.
Yeah, that's understandable. I get it. But, hey, I know a lot of Bills Mafia is not going to be happy.
Yeah, understood.
Let me turn it over to my picks. I'm going to go with a ton of ones that you're going to probably not be surprised about. But I'm going to start it off with, first of all, Matthew Judon. I think that Matthew Judon overall is one of the better defensive ends / outside linebackers that can rush the passer on this AFC East squad. I think that overall with him and Von Miller. I think they're the two best that you can grab. Von, because of what he's done overall in his career, that's why I picked him based off of that. I think he's one of the best defensive ends to ever play the game. And I'm not saying he's the best. Don't get me wrong. I think that it goes Bruce Smith, you have Reggie White, Lawrence Taylor. There's a few other ones that you can include in that list. But overall, as pass rushers of this generation of the 2010s, I think that he's probably the best that you can see out there. Then I went with Quinnen Williams, who he's just gotten better and better every single year. And yes, he's probably the third or fourth best defensive tackle overall in the NFL. But what he's done for the New York Jets is incredible. And he's still, 25 years old? So he's still young. He's going to be a force to be reckoned with for the entire AFC East. You know, Chris and Keith, you know how it's going to be for the next few years. It's going to suck having Quinnen Williams out there. But then I went with your guy, Keith, in Christian Wilkins. And I feel like he has, when he's on the field and he's playing, he is another force to be reckoned with in the middle of the defense. And I was kind of thinking about, where I could go with defensive tackles, but there really isn't any other defensive tackle out there that compares to Christian Wilkins or Quinnen Williams. And my honorable mention would have been Ed Oliver, but I don't think that the upside of what we've seen with Ed Oliver is enough to justify putting him over Christian Wilkins. For linebackers, I went with Matt Milano. I just feel like he's the best one out there. I think that he's done so much overall. He can cover any tight end that's out there. If you look at what he's done in the tight end room, didn't allow a single touchdown overall last year in the regular season. And then he also was fourth in the NFL in yards for the tight end position given up. I think that overall he's gotten better. The only thing that hurts him a little bit is based off of his missed tackle rate, which is something that he needs to improve on. But if he can get better at his missed tackle rate, then he's going to be a top 10, if not a top 5 linebacker in this league for the next few years. At middle linebacker, it really came down to if Tremaine Edmonds was going to stay with the Buffalo Bills or not. I would have put Tremaine Edmonds over CJ Mosley. Just based off of what Tremaine does for a defense, I think that justifies picking him over CJ Mosley. And CJ Mosley also has a history of getting injured against the Buffalo Bills every single year. So I would have went with Tremaine just based off of his health history. I think that what he's done overall is way more than that. Also with Jerome Baker, I think that Jerome Baker, I know that Sean is in the comments saying, why did you pick Jerome? I just think that based off of what the linebacker position overall for the entire AFC East, I don't think there's a better linebacker, and especially with an outside linebacker, than Jerome Baker out there. It was going to be either Jerome Baker or David Long, but I think it just came down to one of the two, and I just chose Jerome Baker just because I think that he's going to get better this year. So that's my one upside player that I picked on the list. And then at cornerback, you have to choose Sauce Gardner and Jalen Ramsey. I think that the honorable mention would have been Tre'Davious White if Tre'Davious White was healthy. I think that this could very well be, if Tre'Davious gets healthy and he returns to the same form that he was before the ACL injury, I think I would put him on the list, honestly, because he has done
Over who, Brett?
I would choose him over Sauce right now.
Okay.
Just because Sauce had one good year. You don't really know what you're going to see from him next year. The rookie slump, or the sophomore slump, starts to happen in year 2. That may happen, but I think that with Tre'Davious and Jalen Ramsey, that's a great two-headed tandem that you could have out there. It would be incredible to see, even in the Pro Bowl, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But I just think that if Tre'Davious was healthy, I think he was going to be the defensive MVP the year that he did tear his ACL, to be honest with you. I felt like he was just on a track where he didn't allow a single touchdown. pretty much carried the Bills defense that whole entire year. And then he got injured. So it really sucked. And we've been fighting to find who's going to be that number one cornerback ever since Tre'Davious got hurt. Now he's healthy. He's kind of returning back to the same form. If he can make that next step to getting healthier and being the same shutdown corner that he was, then it's going to be a different story. And this Bills defense, especially in the secondary, is going to be incredible. Then you add in Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer, who have done this for, it's going to be this is going to be year 7 in the Sean McDermott scheme, and which is incredible to see two safeties together for that long. I think that they're, number one, what Micah has done overall in the 6 years that he's played for Buffalo has been incredible. Now, the thing that hurts him a little bit is that neck injury. That's what concerns me a little bit. And I understand why other guys would have went with Kyle Duggar or Javon Holland. Don't get me wrong. But I think overall, based off of what Micah has done as a center fielder for the Buffalo Bills, is incredible. I think he's going to return to form. Don't get me wrong. I think he's going to be the same Micah Hyde that you normally see. And it's going to be a great defense that he's going to have. And it's going to be great for Jordan Poyer as well. Jordan Poyer is going to be back to the same Jordan Poyer all-pro type of Jordan Poyer that you normally see, making another Pro Bowl selection and pretty much upsetting all of the other panelists that are on the show because he's going to intercept every single one of them this year. So I'm glad to have him back for another 2 years. Then finally, to round it out, Jalen Ramsey coming over from the Rams. You know what you're going to get in him. He's going to be the trash-talking Jalen Ramsey every single year, pissing off everybody in the AFC East with guys like Stephon Diggs. It was going to be D-Hop that was going to go to the Patriots, but unfortunately that didn't happen. So now it's going to be Juju Smith-Schuster he's going to be going one-on-one against, and even Garrett Wilson. That's going to be incredible matchups to watch. So I think that he's going to return to the same Pro Bowl style Jalen Ramsey that you normally see. So that rounds out my list right there. I know Keith chose his defensive coordinator, which he didn't choose a defensive coordinator, though. He chose a head coach to be his defensive coordinator. But
I chose Belichick's scheme.
Belichick. Okay,
I wouldn't have chosen Steve Belichick as my defensive coordinator. But I would choose Bill Belichick to coach my defense.
Yeah. So for me, my defensive coordinator would either be Sean McDermott or Vic Fangio. But I think overall I would choose Sean McDermott just because what he did with the Philadelphia Eagles and also with the Carolina Panthers. You're going to see a ton of blitzes, which is something that I love to see, especially in the modern NFL style that you see. I mean, imagine with Sean McDermott having him have about 50 to 60 sacks this year with his squad, which would be incredible. I think he's going to bring a ton of guys up, and I think it's going to be guys like Greg Rousseau, Von Miller that are going to have 10-plus sacks this year. So I'm going to choose Sean McDermott as my defensive coordinator because he is technically a defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
But that's my pick. I'm going to turn it over to you guys real quick. I'm going to let Chris start off. I want to know his thoughts on this squad.
Well, there's no Patriot on this squad, so that's the biggest downfall of it all.
He's got Judon on there. He's got Judon on there.
I got Judon.
Yeah, I don't know how I missed that. But yeah, it's okay. One Patriot, that's the biggest downfall. But outside that, it's a pretty solid squad. I can't complain about it one bit. I like the picks. Of course, some of them no-brainers, Jalen Ramsey. Strong safety, I don't know if I'd go with Jordan Poyer. I would have went with, of course, Kyle Duggar, but that's just my preference. Quinn Williams, Von Miller, Matt Milano's, all these guys are studs. How can you go against these guys? So solid picks, 10 out of 10.
Appreciate it, man. And Keith, what are your thoughts on this squad?
I think it's a good squad. Jerome Baker made me raise my eyebrows a little bit. I was surprised to see him on the list. I like Jerome Baker as a locker room presence. He's been a great leader for the Dolphins. He's been a real stand-up guy. But Jerome Baker, yeah, red, white, and Bills, like minus Jerome Baker. Yeah, no, I mean, Jerome Baker's been a solid player for the Dolphins. I like David Long's upside. You know what you're getting with Jerome Baker, which is real steady, unspectacular play. He's not a huge playmaker. He's just kind of there to be a steadying presence. And I think you have enough of that with Matt Milano and CJ Mosley. So, and as far as your defensive coordinator goes, I like the Sean McDermott pick. And I live in Philly, and I watched Jim Johnson do his thing for the Eagles. Rest in peace, Jim Johnson. But I've watched him do his thing for the Eagles, and that Eagles team got after it. They got after the quarterback. They put pressure on the entire offense, and that's the school that Sean McDermott came from. So I like the pick as your defensive coordinator. I would have, like I said, I would have gone with Belichick personally as my defensive coach. As far as defensive coordinators go, I'd probably go with Vic Fangio. But you can't go wrong with Sean McDermott.
And to answer this question real quick, I know that Bills fan CA is saying that he'd take
Jackson.
What's up, guys? Sorry, a little miscommunication.
No worries,
No
man.
problem, Jackson. Welcome.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, thanks for having me.
No problem, man. Just to answer this question real quick, I know you said I'd take Bill, the defensive coordinator that broke hearts of Bills fans in the '91 Super Bowl. If it was for me to be a defensive coordinator position and you have Bill Belichick and Sean McDermott, I'm all the way going to take Bill Belichick in that situation. But based off of who is the defensive coordinator overall, then I'm going to choose Sean McDermott. That's just because I don't trust Steve Belichick, to be honest with you.
No.
But that's just my personal preference. And then I'm going to go back to this question again from CA, or this comment from CA. He says that I would not put Trey over Sauce. I have to hope he returns to form. Odds against him that he returns to Trey when he was at his best. And I agree. I think that based off of where Tre'Davious was before the injury, I would put Tre'Davious over Sauce. But if right now, I think it's Sauce over Trey by far. That's why I wouldn't choose him right now. But if he returns to form and he's the same Tre'Davious White, it's going to be very, very close.
It turns into a three-way race between Ramsey, Sauce, and Trey. And I don't think you can go wrong with any of them. Now, for a brief minute, I thought about putting Tre'Davious White over Jalen Ramsey. Now, it was brief. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. But I did briefly think about doing that because I think Sauce just belongs on there. He's such a talent, such an ascending player, such a scary guy to go against. Hey, Jackson.
I completely agree with you. But I'm going to turn it over, Jackson. I know that you're just joining the show, man. But we're doing our AFC East teams. You can look over my team. I just want to hear your thoughts, number one, on this squad, and I'll turn it back over to Keith's squad. I'll move it over to his too. So I want to know your thoughts. Give me an analysis of this squad, what your thoughts are, and give a rating too.
Yeah. So Brett, looking at your squad, we have 10 out of the 11 same players. So I would say it's a very good squad. The only player that I have different is Micah Hyde. I have a different free safety in there. But for looking at all the defenses and all of our teams, I think that this is the best quality defense that you could put out there with all the AFC East teams. Like, just looking at the defensive ends, you can't go much better than that quality. Defensive tackles, I didn't think it was much of a question with Wilkins and Williams. I think those two are the two solidified top dogs in the conference, or the division, sorry. And then just the linebackers and corners, that's just exactly what I win. It's just those are the best guys at those positions in our division.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there, Jackson. And I'm going to turn it over to Keith's squad. That way you can take a look at that one. Want to know your thoughts on this squad too?
Yeah, that's a pretty good squad too. So one thing with Jalen Phillips and Von Miller, I was kind of going back and forth. I didn't really know who I wanted to give it to. But just looking at Von Miller's track record and what he's done in this league and who he is, that's kind of why I went Von Miller over Phillips once you guys seen my rankings. But I wouldn't like disagree with it necessarily. I think Phillips is an outstanding player, and I think he's going to really come to play this year and show out. And then David Long, I'm kind of wondering why you guys went with David Long there in that linebacker position.
That was me, David Long. I mean, first off, your assessment of Von Miller over Jalen Phillips, totally get it. There's a history with Von Miller, whereas there isn't one with Jalen Phillips. I went with a lot more future upside on my list than I went with, past performance. David Long is a guy that hasn't stayed healthy, but he's been a really great playmaker when he has been in there. If David Long can stay healthy for the Dolphins this year, he's gonna be a real difference maker for them
in a free agent.
Yeah.
So you like David Long over Jerome Baker?
Yes, I do. We were discussing this earlier. Jerome Baker is a solid player, good locker room presence, great guy to have around, but he's unspectacular. Whereas David Long can really kind of move the needle for a defense. Jerome Baker hasn't done that thus far in his career. Actually, this might actually be Jerome Baker's last season with the Dolphins. I don't know that he's going to last past this season. Yeah.
That's good to know. Well, I'm going to turn it over to Jackson now. I want his analysis of his team, number one. And then I also want to know who his defensive coordinator would be on the squad.
So just talking about defensive ends, Matthew Judon, he's a different animal. He deserves to be on. Out of all the divisions out there, he would be on the starting lineup for pretty much every one of them. He's a different beast. And then Von Miller, I discussed him a little bit earlier. His track record, it speaks for itself. Quinnen Williams, I might be a little bit biased here, but I think he's a top 3, top 4 defensive tackle in the league. So he deserves to be there. Christian Wilkins, he's a very solid player, and I just think he's the second best defensive tackle in this division. And then Matt Milano, in my opinion, he's the best linebacker in this division. He's outstanding. CJ Mosley, he's definitely lost a step. He isn't the player he was 2, 3, 4 years ago, but just his presence in the locker room, his communication on the field, just who he is as a person and a player, he just has to be out there on the lineup. And then Jerome Baker, I totally get about what you were talking about the linebacker earlier, but for Jerome Baker, he's been out there more consistently throughout his career. I just kind of wanted to go with that. And Sauce Gardner, Jalen Ramsey, there's not much dispute there in my opinion. Those are the 2 top guys. Their play speaks for themselves. And Javon Holland, I honestly didn't know too much about him, and then I started doing some research yesterday and just watching some tape and just reading some stuff about him, and he's a beast. Everyone has good stuff to say about him. And Jordan Poyer, his track record, it speaks for itself. Like he's an outstanding player. And then for me, I would have to go the Jets coordinator. I'm forgetting his name at the moment, but I honestly don't really know too much about the other defensive coordinators, but I really like our philosophy in rushing 4 passers and letting our corners, safeties, and linebackers do the work, and just getting after the quarterback with our front 4.
So your defensive coordinator is Jeff Ulbrich.
Yeah, Jeff Ulbrich. Yeah, sorry, I was forgetting his name there.
Yep. So that's your defensive coordinator that you're going to pick. I'm going to turn it over to Keith first. I want to know your thoughts, assessment on this squad, and are you surprised by the defensive coordinator pick there, or do you think that's a little biased?
I think there's a little bit biased there, but I think, but it's Robert Saleh's system, and he did a good job running it in San Francisco. So, and he's done a good job running it in New York. The Jets had a great defense last year. So how can I honestly go against what you're saying there, Jackson? I was surprised, however, to see Javon Holland up there. He had a bit of a down year last year, and I know I said I've been going off of upside a lot, and I by that rationale, I should have Javon Holland in my starters. But I want to see how Javon Holland responds this year. I want to see how he bounces back from a lackluster sophomore season. But I like to see him up there. It certainly made me smile. And Other than that, Jerome Baker, we've discussed him already. Matthew Judon, Von Miller instead of Jalen Phillips, totally get it. Quentin Williams, you said, hometown bias. I don't think it's biased to say that Quentin Williams is an outstanding player. He's a true difference maker on that defense, a true game wrecker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I like your list, Jackson. I like it a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, when we played the Lions, I think it was week 15, week 16, and Quinnen wasn't out there. Our defense was a total different defense. Quinnen, he's the heart and soul of our team, and yeah, I'm so happy we re-signed him.
Yeah, it was a great signing by you guys.
Chris, let me know your thoughts, man, on the squad.
You know what? I can't complain about the squad. Of course, I love the fact that everyone's giving Matthew Judon his rightful credits. The squads are looking a lot similar between you guys, so I'm loving it. Javon Holland, I'm glad to see that you had a little hometown bias or a little home team bias on yours, even with your coordinator. So I'm happy to see that. I'm really liking the list, Jackson. So I'm gonna give it a 10 out of 10, just like everyone else's. Really good list. And Keith, if you think his list is a little biased, just wait till you see mine.
Yeah.
So for me, I think that this is a solid pick. I really like it, Jackson. I think you did a great job on it. This is by far, one of the better ones that you can have for a starting 11. And I'll tell you what, for everybody on here, I think that everybody would take whatever team is on that starting 11 and put it on their team, and they'd be thrilled with it.
Oh yeah.
So don't get me wrong. I think that whatever way you could have went, unless you would have went with who Chris is about to pick, then you're going to be like, okay, this is pretty good. But
there's salary cap ramifications for that, though.
Yeah.
Having a defense like this, our offenses are going to be terrible.
Oh, yeah. Don't get me wrong. The salary cap is going to be horrible for us. But I had two questions for you, Jackson. Number one, how much did your thoughts get impacted based off of if Tremaine Edmonds was still on the Buffalo Bills? Would you have chose Tremaine Edmonds over CJ Mosley?
So what I would have done is Matt Milano number 1, Edmonds number 2, CJ number 3, and I would have kicked Baker out. But I definitely think Edmonds is better than CJ Mosley at this point in both of their careers.
I agree.
Okay. Yeah. And then with the injury to Micah Hyde, did that have any impact on you choosing Javon Holland over Micah Hyde?
It did a little bit, but honestly, I just think Holland's upside is there. And I think going into year 3, he's going to be that player. He's going to be that it factor. And I personally think he's going to be the best free safety this upcoming year in the AFC East.
Okay. That's good to know.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to turn it over to Chris. And guys, I'm going to give you a disclaimer real quick before I even do this. I don't know what he was thinking when he chose his squad, but there might be a little bit of bias over this. And number one, I don't want to be a part of this squad. So I'm going to say that right now, but I'm going to turn it over to Chris. And I'm totally kidding when I say this. I think that it's still a good squad, but let me turn it over to Chris's squad where he chose a ton of Patriots. So Chris, go ahead, man.
As you can see, my squad is full of the entire Patriots roster right now. Nothing but upside. One of the best defensive squads in the NFL, in my opinion. And of course, if I had to pick a defensive coordinator, I wouldn't, like many other people, I would not pick Steve Belichick. I would pick Matt Patricia, and then I'd also pick Bill Belichick as our coach. What can I say about this squad? It's one of the most beautiful, well-oiled machines in the NFL. Plenty of upside in it. I think they've gotten a lot more speed since we lost. Since we had the retirement of, how can I forget his name? Devin McCourty and Boomtower as well, Devontae Hightower. So I think that was our biggest issue last year. So now looking at it, we have Jawan Bentley taking over as middle linebacker. We got Kyle Duggar as a strong safety, who of course is one of the toughest in the AFC East. So I'm looking forward to seeing how he performs this year. He's only been getting better and better. Christian Gonzalez, young kid, a lot of upside. I'm gonna love to see how he performs in the Steve Belichick and Bill Belichick system. So I'm looking forward to it. Jonathan Jones, Jabril Peppers, Josh Uche. All these are wonderful, wonderful picks. So as you can see, my list is completely biased. Okay, completely biased. But I just can't wait to see how we do this season.
Sounds good. Okay. Well, I'm going to start it off real quick because I wish I had my sound gear and everything that I could play. Because right now I'm thinking about playing the what sound because I don't know where you're going with this one, man. But
We're going to this. I can tell you, Brett, where we're going is the Super Bowl.
Okay. Prove me wrong, man. Prove me wrong. But I'm going to start off by saying that I do think that, overall, there's plenty of Patriots that you can grab on this list. And guys, I know this is all kidding aside and everything. This is a fun squad that he put together. Yes. Chris, do you have an actual squad that you're going to put together, though, if you had to pick one?
Looking at your guys' list, my squad would be similar to you guys. It'd pretty much be similar to all the lists that you guys made. So I wanted to switch it up a little bit. I didn't want to give, how many times can we talk about the same guys over and over again, So right, I thought it'd be a little bit fun to introduce my starting. So it'd be all Patriots, I got to double down on my team because if I don't support them, who else will?
Exactly. You're right. Jackson, let me know your thoughts real quick, man.
As a NFL defense, it might be all right, but as for AFC East defense, don't really know where we're going. But I just having Jonathan Jones and Christian Gonzalez just kind of pops out at the paper. Not having Ramsey and Sauce up there, I don't know. It could be a good defense, but for AFC East, it's a little biased.
That's the difference, Jackson. It will be a good defense.
I'll say this real quick. You got one guy that may not be on the field because he's going to be suspended. And then you get a guy that hasn't done anything in the NFL as your two cornerbacks. So, based off of the last cornerback that was picked in the first round, you might have something right here. Christian Gonzalez could be the next Sauce Gardner. But that's based off of a big hypothetical that he can get up to that level. But, hey, he's playing in the Bill Belichick scheme. That could very well happen. I hope it does for you. And it's a good squad that you can put together based off of a bunch of guys that are Patriots. And you know how Patriots play. They're going to work their tail off, and they're going to play the Patriots way. And they're going to perform for Bill Belichick. So I'll give you all the credit on that. But I'm going to turn it over to Keith. Let me know your thoughts on the squad.
Well, I love where Chris went with it. Just saying this is my defense. This is the best defense in the NFL. I love it. I love the confidence. I'll say this, and I said it before. I'll say it again. Bill Belichick is the greatest defensive mind probably of all time, and he puts his guys in a position to succeed constantly. He takes away what an offense does best. He takes away what an offense does second best, and he takes an offense's weaknesses and he takes an offense's strengths, I should say, and turns them into weaknesses. Nobody does that better than Bill Belichick. So you have these guys, and there's some talented guys on this list. Lawrence Guy, Matthew Judon. We all had him on our list. I had Kyle Duggar on my list. Christian Gonzalez, I think he's going to take a year or two to acclimate to the NFL. But there's some talented guys on this list, and they're all Bill Belichick hand-picked guys. So, the list is, it's obviously not what I would choose as the best defensive players in the NFL, but I like where your head's at, Chris. I like the confidence.
I'll say this real quick, though. Your loyalty to your team is unmatched. I'm proud of you for that, and I want to see what you do if you're starting offense, man. Because that's something that I'm going to wonder if you're going to choose Mac Jones.
See, when it comes to starting offense, I'm a little bit more realistic with the offense because our Patriots offense has not been what it should be the past few years, but I also attribute it to the fact that we had a defensive coordinator as our offensive coordinator. So we're going to see how we do moving forward. But like I said, I have a lot of hope for our offense this season. Our defense has always performed, always overperformed, despite what everyone thought, especially our cornerbacks. I think we've always had a cornerback leading in, for the past few years, we've had a cornerback leading in interceptions in the NFL. So that's why I have a lot of hope for Christian Gonzalez Gonzalez, even though he's a rookie, hasn't really shown prove yet. But I think he's going to have a really high upside. Looking the way he played in Oregon, I think it's going to translate really well to the NFL and really well to the Patriots defensive scheme. They're going to mold him. They're going to use him, and he's going to get a crash course. He's time to play with the big boys. So it's either sink or swim now.
Chris, let me ask you, how much do you think the defense is going to miss Devin McCourty after his retirement?
It's going to be hard to miss. I mean, it's going to be hard to play without Devin McCourty. He's definitely one of the all-time leaders on the Patriots as far as defense goes. He was veteran presence. He held down the ship. Him and Boom Tower, Devonta Hamtower. So those are two big names that we're going to miss, two leaders. So, but I think we're in good hands with Kyle Duggar. One of the things that like I said earlier in the show, one of the things I really noticed is, as the league progressed, of course, the players are getting faster, getting quicker, jumping higher. So at a certain age and at a certain age, you're just kind of on that downward slope, and he was on that downward slope. So it's kind of hard to keep up with a Tyreek Hill, with a Garrett Wilson, or some of those faster receivers. So we're gonna miss him, but at the same time, we need to continue to improve. And I think with these picks and with the players that we have now, that's what we're gonna do.
I wouldn't be surprised to see Devin McCourty in the Patriots coaching ranks in the coming year, Chris.
Yeah. I mean, he was a great safety, so I wouldn't be surprised, as a safety coach or whatever the case may be, somewhere on the defense. But I'm looking, we'll see what the future holds.
And his brother's good on Good Morning Football. Don't get me wrong, too. So
yeah.
But it'll be interesting to see. All right, guys, I'm going to get the closing thoughts number one from each and every one of you. But before we do that, I want to ask you guys, have you checked out the Madden ratings that it came out this week for some of your squad?
Yeah.
I have not. I mean, I used to be a big Madden fan. I stopped playing it after they ruined it with the X Factors because it kind of just seemed you could spam superstars and just But I have to take a look at that, Brett. What are they looking like?
So right now, they've only come out with a couple of ones. There's a couple of surprise picks. I know that one, Garrett Wilson, was a surprise, where he got ranked. I felt like Tyreek Hill, where he was, obviously, where he was going to be.
Yeah.
Jalen Waddle, too, right up there as well. So, two good picks for you guys. Patriots-wise, I didn't really see anybody that stood out to me. So, I was just curious from you guys, any thoughts on the Madden ratings? First of all, Jackson, any thoughts on the Madden ratings that you want to say?
I think that Garrett Wilson rating almost caused chaos on Twitter. Almost caused a Jets riot Twitter riot, but I think he was the 30th ranked receiver in the NFL.
What was his rating, Jackson?
84.
84?
Which is
wow.
It's pretty low. Yeah, he's
a little low.
It is what it is. It's the Jets are going to get slander until we prove the haters wrong. So we'll just show out this year, and then we'll see what happens next year.
Keith, any surprise rankings from the Dolphins?
No, they had Christian Wilkins up there pretty high, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. I haven't played Madden in years, to be honest. I'm kind of on Chris's bandwagon there. The game hasn't been decent since honestly since Michael Vick was on the cover. 04. So I haven't played Madden in a really long time. But I always do tune in to see the ratings because it's kind of fun to see where you guys rank.
And where they go throughout the whole entire season too. That's kind of the cool part about it.
Yeah. So, seeing Tyreek Hill at 98 overall, number 2 wide receiver on the list, that doesn't surprise me at all. Jalen Waddle at an 88 overall, it doesn't surprise me. So, no real surprises, no Garrett Wilson-esque surprises for the Dolphins.
Yeah, I was a little surprised based off of Garrett Wilson's ranking. I thought that for sure he would be inside the top 20 at least.
Yeah.
And to put guys like Odell over him, and there's a few others that they put over him as well, I was like, okay, there's no way. He played so well last year, and the upside that he's going to bring to your squad this year, I think he's going to be inside the top 10 at the end of the season.
Oh, yeah, he's outstanding.
Come next season, he'll be a top 10 wideout.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And, that rating is very low. I think for the Bills, as far as ratings, I think that one that was very low, it was a 69 rating for Christian Benford. that surprised me quite a bit. Matt Milano getting ranked as low as he did, it wasn't even in the 90s based off of what he did overall throughout the whole entire season. I felt like he should be at least a 90. Felt like guys like Jordan Poyer should have gotten a little bit higher than they did as well. I felt like Jordan should have been more of a 92, 93, somewhere in that range. And but overall, I liked where it's going to be. But you got some more positions that are coming out. It will be interesting to see does Josh Allen get up to the 99 club just because he's on the cover. That's something that I'd like to see. I don't think he's going to get there. Don't get me wrong. But I think should be right around 93 to 95, somewhere in that range. I think that's a fair assessment of where he should be. But it's going to be interesting to see who's going to be that next 99 player.
Yeah, I'm looking at
probably Patrick Mahomes. Easy bet right there.
Yeah, Patrick Mahomes. I'm looking at the Madden ratings right now for the Patriots. Looks like the highest ranked player is Matthew Judon, so there's no surprise there. Patriots, it just looks like they give him middle of the pack ratings from the looks like highest, like I said, 89 being Matthew Judon, and everyone's kind of teetering around low 80s to 70s and 60s. So Patriots, they're giving middle of the pack ratings, and I guess the one thing I like about the Madden rating is the system that they use is that during the season, if a guy improves and continues to show himself as that guy, they will bump him up. So we'll see how these season looks. We'll see how these ratings look toward the end of the season. You know.
Do you think that there's going to be anybody that will you're going to see first of all at the start of the season that can bring their ranking up a lot this year?
That's a good question. I'm definitely looking to see Kendrick Bourne as our receivers. I think Kendrick Bourne's really underrated. He's always been a big playmaker, and he was a big playmaker in a terrible offense, I must say. So I think he's going to definitely do well, especially with Devontae Parker and Juju Smith-Schuster taking away a lot of the coverage. So I'm looking for him to make a big splash. Josh Uche, our outside linebacker, I think he's going to make a splash. He's been in the league for a few years now. He's starting to come into form. I'm really looking forward to seeing what he's going to do. Kyle Duggar, I think he's only going to get better and better. He's actually the second highest ranked player on our team right now as far as overall goes. So like I said, he has nothing but upside. So those are the three guys I'm really looking forward to seeing their rating toward the end of the season.
Okay. Jackson, anybody that you think on your squad that's going to be making a big jump this year?
Carl Lawson. He was ranked 80 or 81, and last season he was coming off that Achilles, and then he re-injured it in training camp, and he wasn't able to do a lot of finesse moves. He was just more of a bull rusher. So I think this season he's going to be a lot more productive as a player. So I could see his rating maybe rise to like an 84, 85. Also, like John Franklin Myers, he was ranked in 84. He's one of the most underrated players on our defensive line, and he is so good in the pass rush and the run stopping. So I think he should rise a couple points. And then I don't think the corners have been announced yet, but there's been some rumors that Tariq Woolen is going to be higher than Sauce Gardner, which I just don't get after winning Defensive Rookie of the Year. So I think Sauce by the end of the year should pass Tariq Woolen. At least that should be the hope.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
Yeah.
Keith, anybody on your squad that you think is going to be they can make a tremendous upside?
Well, I've talked about Jalen Phillips at nauseum on this channel, and I really think he's going to become an elite pass rusher this year. So currently he's ranked at an 84, I believe. I wouldn't. He's an 83. I wouldn't be surprised to see him in the upper 80s, lower 90s by the end of the season. I think he's that special of a player, that special of a talent.
I could see that very well. For me, I think that the one that comes to mind is I could go with on offense, Gabe Davis. I think that he can make a tremendous improvement. But for me, it comes down to Kyer Elam. And I think that in his second year, if he can make a jump and become the second cornerback for the Buffalo Bills, especially with what Tre'Davious White brings to the other side of the field and the amount of passes that are going to get thrown his way. If he can, first of all, take control of the number 2 cornerback position, and he can be as good as even Levi Wallace was. I think that he can be a lot better than him. Don't get me wrong, but if he can be that type of player, I think that his upside is going to be incredible. He's only at a 75 right now, and I could see him going into the mid 80s by the end of the season. So,
Hey Brett, would you say they ranked Gabe Davis?
Gabe Davis, let me check what his ranking was real quick. I didn't see what it was. I only saw the top 20 so far, but
they haven't even rated Mac Jones, which does not surprise me. I wouldn't be surprised they gave him like a high 70.
So Gabe Davis came in at an 83, which, I mean, to me, that's still a little high. I would have put him at an 81, 82, somewhere in that range.
I would have gave him an 85 personally.
I just think based off of the amount of drop passes that he had last year, that's something that concerned me a little bit. You know, the one game that he really had that was a big game was the Kansas City game. He only had 800 and something receiving yards last year, which wasn't incredible numbers. So for me, low 80s is somewhere where I could see him going. And then if he can first of all catch more than 50% of his passes, then he can make a jump. And then if he can also block too, that's another thing that I want to see more of him doing. Then it's going to be even better for him next year.
Yeah, but in my opinion, and this is only because, fantasy football, surprisingly, I picked my team. I had both Gabe Davis and Josh Allen. I know it's very shocking, but as far as that went, I want to say that last year Josh Allen forced a lot of passes to Stephon Diggs, which I don't want to make excuses for NFL players. They're supposed to be always ready, but I mean, if you're catching two to like 4 passes a game, of course you're not going to have a lot of big numbers. You're going to get cold. But I think that was Gabe Davis's downfall, that he just wasn't getting targeted enough in that offensive scheme. So we'll see how he performs this year. I think he's going to have a big year. I always thought he was a good wide receiver too. A lot of speed, a lot of deep. He was a really big deep threat. So I think he's really underrated, and he's another player that you guys need to look at.
Yeah, and the ankle injury, you don't know how much that affected him as well. The high ankle sprain, it can affect him quite a bit. So he'll be healthy this season, and we'll see where he goes. But before I turn it over to final thoughts, I have another question that came in from the channel. This is from Bills fan CA. He's asking, has anybody watched the new quarterback show on Netflix?
I did see that. Yeah. I did see that. I was thinking about checking it out, but I've been rewatching Titanic.
I actually just finished quarterback today.
I haven't finished it yet, so don't spoil it. But I'm on episode 7 so far. So
okay, yeah. I thought it was very interesting to kind of get the background in their lives, and kind of like just the quarterback position is the most important in football. So it's kind of interesting to see how they go about their day-to-day business, what they do to prepare for a week, how they watch film, all of their studying they have to do. I thought they did a great job, and I thought it was very interesting. It's a cool show.
Keith, have you watched it yet?
I actually haven't. I unsubscribed from Netflix a little bit ago. Oh, had to trim the fat on all my subscriptions, man. It's getting to be
understandable.
It's getting to be a little ridiculous.
It's okay.
And, what's that?
I'll send you a link.
All right. Yeah, I mean, when the new season of Love Is Blind comes out, I have to watch that with my fiance. But other than that, I probably won't subscribe to Netflix till then.
I heard one of the quarterbacks was getting a lot of backlash. Was it who was the quarterback for the Vikings? Kirk Cousins.
Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, they said he was getting a lot of backlash from the show.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. I feel like, I don't feel like it was deserved, but I do feel like so far as I've gotten to, I felt like it's very good. It follows Marcus Mariota, Kirk Cousins, and Patrick Mahomes. And I feel like it's very good. It's very spot on for what we don't see from the NFL. And the amount of pain, number one, that they go through, the amount of studying that they go through, and just what it takes to be an NFL player, number one. That's something that we don't see. So if you haven't watched it, it's definitely a show that you should watch. And it's something that, deserves a part 2 so far.
Did you see they announced it?
Oh, they did? I didn't know that yet.
Yeah. Peyton Manning came on the Pat McAfee show today and announced that they're doing a season 2.
That's awesome. I'm glad they are. I think that they should bring in more quarterbacks, though. I think that they should bring in guys like Aaron Rodgers and Josh Allen and Joe Burrow and even Mac Jones and Tua Tagovailoa. I think that they should bring in a ton of other guys. I think it should be every single squad that should do it. Just in my opinion, I think it would be interesting to see.
I wonder how this show is going to affect Hard Knocks. I wonder if that's still going to be a thing in a few years, or if this is going to take over.
It might. It very well could. But this is a Peyton Manning production, I'm pretty sure. Is that correct?
Yeah, he was like the executive producer.
So, yeah. Good for him, though. But,
yeah.
All right, guys. I'm going to turn it over to each one of you guys. Closing thoughts real quick. And then if there's any news from your teams, let us know. So I'm going to start with Jackson. You can go ahead.
I'm sorry I joined late again, but I had a great time talking to you guys. I always have a good time kind of getting a perspective from you guys and kind of what you guys think is like the best defensive coordinator, the best players at each position. It's always interesting to hear. And the Jets report tomorrow to a training camp, which I just cannot wait to start getting that football feed and all that, and just have football for the next 6-7 months. But yeah, it was a great time being on. Thanks for having me, and it was great talking to you guys.
Awesome. Thank you for being on, man. I'm sorry it was a little late. We were going to have to work on making sure that we know which time zone you are on.
Yeah.
Is it Central Time Zone?
The Mountain West, or Mountain
You're
Time.
2 hours behind.
So you're 2 hours behind, man.
Yeah, okay, 2 hours. Yeah.
Well, I'll make sure I put it in the comments next time, so that way you know. But
yeah, for sure.
Keith, go ahead, man. Closing thoughts.
I had a great time talking to you guys tonight, seeing you guys as squads, even you, Chris. Like Jackson said, training camp's starting up this week, so it's a good time of year to kind of see where your team's at, evaluate things. And no news as far as the Dolphins go. And honestly, this time of year, no news is good news. So, I'm looking forward to seeing you guys again next week, and we'll talk football again next week, and hopefully, training camps have started and everybody's healthy.
Definitely. Chris, go ahead, man.
No news. I guess the most disappointing thing was that we did not land DeAndre Hopkins. That was a very big hurt on our end because we were looking for it, someone to take over that wide receiver one. So it's going to be really interesting to see how Juju Smith-Schuster performs. So it's moving, going into the season. That's going to be very interesting. But positive note, we are looking like the favorites to land Dalvin Cook. So we shall see how it performs. I don't know how it's going to work out because I do like Ramondre Stevenson, and I think he's primed for a really big year. But, we'll see. We'll see. I know Bill Belichick's in the hot seat right now, so hopefully they can, really step up and just outperform all the predictions that we're seeing for the Patriots this season. So,
Chris, I don't think Bill Belichick's really on the hot seat, man.
No,
I don't think so. I don't think so either. But that's what all the news articles are saying. So we'll see. Yeah.
That's because there's no news right now. So they have to bring the news out of thin air.
Yeah. So no news is better than what's it called? No news is better than bad news. So
yeah,
that's what they're going to say. They have to make their media presence known. So you got to come up with some story that's a little biased and a little bogus too. So that's pretty much where it goes.
I do like the Dalvin Cook story. So we'll see.
We'll see. I got one last question for you, Chris, before I let everybody go. Now that you guys lost DeAndre Hopkins, you lost the sweepstakes there. Is there anybody on the trade market that you guys are thinking about going after? Because I thought of a guy that you should go after is Mike Evans from the Bucks. But just curious, is there anybody you're thinking of?
I don't know. I think with Mike Evans is also someone who suffers from a lot of drops, just like Gabe Davis. So I like Mike Evans. I think he's on a downward trend of his career. I don't think he'd be a player that we want. If I had to pick a big wide receiver that we want for the. I never really thought about it. I thought DeAndre Hopkins would be a good fit, but honestly, it all depends on how Mac Jones performs this year. But if I had to go for a wide receiver, someone who I think could take over and push us to the next level, man, who would? Who would I? It definitely wouldn't be Mike Evans, but that'd be a good pick. Um, you know, maybe like I'm just wishful thinking. Something like a Cooper Cup. That's who I'd like.
Hey, he could be available.
He could be had for the right price.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I don't think the Rams are getting any better. I know they're on a big downward trend. They're going to be looking toward a rebuild soon. They lost most of their offensive weapons, so I think Cooper Cup would be someone I like to see on the Patriots.
Yeah, it could be available. Very well could be. They're looking like a rebuild for the Rams. It looks like they sold out for that Super Bowl ring, and then they're going to be in a rebuild situation. Mm-hmm. Jackson, this is your last question, buddy. I got to ask you this. Will Hard Knocks be a distraction for the New York Jets?
That's a good question right there. I think it will be a distraction if they let it be. Bringing in Aaron Rodgers, there's going to be more cameras there. There's going to be more people there. So you just got to embrace it. You got to accept it. You just got to enjoy it and have a good time with it. And go through the process of Hard Knocks. Don't make it a pain. Just do what they want to do, what they're asking, and all that.
Are you happy, Jackson? Are you happy?
Sorry?
Are you happy the Jets are doing Hard Knocks?
As a fan, I'm extremely happy. I cannot wait to get more content. I cannot wait to see inside access and all that. But as just for the Jets, they've told the NFL they don't want to do it whatsoever. So I'm really hoping that they just kind of suck it up, they embrace it, and they don't let it be a distraction. So I don't think it will be, but I could see at some point them start butting heads a little bit. So I think it could become later on, but I'm hoping it's not.
And what the Jets have said so far, based off of what you're reading, they don't want to do it, obviously. But you're also seeing that the Jets have said that they're not going to have cameras in the room when they're cutting players, and that's not going to be a part of the show, which I'm totally okay with. I think that side of the NFL should stay private. I think it's a little disrespectful to the player that's being cut. So
I totally agree. Because these are kids' dreams, that are just getting turned off in front of them. I remember a couple years ago, I forget his name, but he was a quarterback for the Rams, and he got cut on Hard Knocks, and him and his family were just devastated by it because it was shown on public national TV. So right. I think it's a good decision not to be watching kids' dreams get fired right in front of them.
I like to interject there real quick. Well, I think really when it comes to Hard Knocks is reality TV, and at the end of the day, it's reality. It's not like Keeping Up with the Kardashians, but it's reality TV and the TV that people want to see. So I think the NFL is not all sunshine and rainbows. So I think the aspect of cutting players, as wrong as it is, it's a real aspect of it, and probably an aspect that people want to see, because sometimes people wonder what happened to their favorite player. You might have a favorite player in the NFL, and all of a sudden he's just not there. Nobody knows why he's cut. So I think that's a good aspect of Hard Knocks. It should be kept on there because it's reality.
How about instead of having them in the room, you have the cameras outside of the room, and then when they come out of the room and they're ready to talk, they can talk, and that's it. But not have it inside the room.
I agree. A little compassion and discretion is probably needed in that area because, like you said, Jackson, that is somebody's life. That's somebody's dream. Their blood, sweat, and tears just being cut short. They might not get picked in front of the team, and that's a hard pill to swallow. So I think that's not something you want to document, that type of pain. But but still an aspect of the NFL that happens on a day-to-day basis.
And I think it might be cool to. Sorry, Brett.
Go ahead.
I think it might be cool maybe to do an interview after it, not like a live video where the GM and the coaches are talking to players, but maybe an interview with the coach and a player after might be pretty interesting. But I think it's not right watching someone get fired on TV. Right. At least in my opinion, I just don't think that's fair to them, fair to the families, fair to the team. But,
yeah, I completely agree with you. And I think one thing that I will add to that, the one that is really memorable for me based off of it wasn't even a cut, it was a trade that happened. And I know Keith is going to remember it because when it happened, it was big news. The Vontae Davis trade from the Dolphins to the Indianapolis Colts. And just watching his reaction at that moment and what he said, "Can I call my grandmother?"
Yeah.
I mean, that reaction, I can imagine what he's thinking in his mind. And while his career with Buffalo was short, don't get me wrong, it was probably the shortest I've ever seen because I've never seen just one half of football being played. So that's a little bit surprising, but taking a little jab at him, don't get me wrong. But that was a little bit surprising. Keith, any thoughts on it, though?
Well, for one thing, I will say this. That trade was the best thing that happened to Vontae Davis. He was spinning his wheels with Miami, and he became a Pro Bowl caliber player with the Colts when he got there. But, you know, I like the way Chris put it, where this is reality TV. And now the only difference being is these players didn't sign up for this reality TV show, whereas Keeping Up with the Kardashians or Survivor or Big Brother, you signed up for that. You kind of know what comes to the territory when it comes to that kind of thing. So with that in mind, I think there has to be a middle ground. And seeing a coach tell a guy that his hopes and dreams have now been dashed on TV, it's a little much because, once again, these guys didn't sign up for this. These guys don't want this. So Chris brought up an interesting point earlier where he said, I don't know about the future of Hard Knocks. I don't know if there's going to be a future for Hard Knocks because players and coaches alike are starting to push back on Hard Knocks more and more. Now, obviously, the league wants what the league gets. But I think we're kind of getting to a point where there's going to be an impasse. And I think that at the end of the day, I think that maybe Hard Knocks needs to go away for a little while.
I don't even think it's just that. I think that what they should do is I think the production companies from each team should come up with their own show and have it stream on, their channels, on their website and everything. Control what they're going to see on there. And then do it that way. It can be produced by, somebody like a Peyton Manning or Eli Manning or somebody like of that category. And then once they do it, then they can edit it and say, here, this is stuff that we don't want on there. This is stuff that we do want on there. And have a compromise in the middle. And just, if you don't want to do it, you don't do it. If you do want to do it, you can do it. But it's something for the NFL to do. And you can have it for the Dallas Cowboys, who they have 1 billion fans in 1 billion different states that you can imagine. There's fans that are, in the middle of the, the other side of the world that are fans. So,
I like
Brett.
Jackson.
The Jets actually have exactly that. It's called One Jets Drive. It's their own production company, and they're actually going to be posting their episodes Monday, the day before Hard Knocks. But they've been doing that for a few years now, and this last season they actually came up for there's 18 or 19 awards, like Emmy awards. So it's very cool, but it's obviously extremely biased. But it's just an awesome production show to be able to see that background information and their conversations with the players and conversations with the coaches. So it's very cool to get the background look into our teams.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I am going to sign us off because we're going on a bit of a rant today. But this has been our starting 11 defense for this show. We're going to have another show next week for our starting 11 offense that we're going to do. But don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow us on social media platforms. You can find the AFC East Summit #1 on Instagram. And you can also find us on YouTube as well. So don't forget to smash that like button. Don't forget to go on over to the Nickel City Mafia. Follow them on YouTube as well and on Instagram. Red, White, and Bills as well. They're another partner of ours as well. Don't forget to follow them on Instagram and YouTube. And then for all of my panels that I have on here, Keith, Chris, Jackson, and myself, it's always good to be with you again. You can find me on the Red, White, and Bill, or not the Red, White, and Bills, the Go Bills podcast. I'm sorry. I always get myself confused. On YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, and now we are officially on Threads as well. And on our website, gobillspodcast.com, where you can find all of our upcoming shows that we're going to be doing as well. For Keith, Chris, and Jackson, I'm Brett. Have a great night. And as always, go Bills.
Go Fins.
Pass Nation.
Go Jets.
Have a good one, guys.